we want to grow, but most of us really don't want to be uncomfortable. So, how do you reconcile that in a job search, which is fraught with all kinds of transition?
So I think when you think about job searching and putting yourself out there, that's a lot of where the discomfort lies. When I work with executives to up-level their personal brand, the number one thing that I hear is that they're a little bit self-conscious about what they want to put out there. And so that is their level of discomfort. The what if I did something quote unquote wrong is not really about you. It's about the people that you want to help, the people that you're serving. It is really selfish if you don't put yourself out there and you don't get to help the people that could use your help. What a loss. So I think as soon as you start reframing and thinking about the people that could benefit from your help, the companies that could benefit from your work, products that could benefit from your ideas, I think it starts to shift. It's not about you.
This is Career Blast in a Half, the career podcast for executives ready to cut past outdated career advice to fuel your outcomes now.
Welcome to Career Blast in a Half, the special Legends edition. So I am so fired up because we have like a live legend right here, or a living legend, not an urban legend, the real deal. Howie Chan is here. And for those of you who may not be all that familiar with Howie, he comes by the world of brand strategy, but he is also a phenomenal writer and a soulpreneur to really help other people like you and me craft powerful messages, but really become their own versions of legends. And we're going to have a lot of discussions about what is a legend, the legend formula, and what it really means in your career. But before you go away, I want you to know down below is the link so that you can register for his legend letters. 80,000 subscribers and growing strong. So his consultancy has also helped hundreds of startups and Fortune 500s. And every single day, he is out there with amazing messages and mindset reframes and all the good stuff on LinkedIn. So with that said, Howie.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Lauren.
I am super excited. And so I'm always curious, like, what is it that like prompted this idea in your amazing brain? Like, I should talk about legends and what is a legend, and like, how did you stumble across that as your cornerstone, and where has that taken you?
So this was last year's 2023. I think somewhere around June or July. I woke up in the middle of the night with deep pain in my stomach, and my wife had to call the ambulance. It was not a good situation. And I remember the paramedics showing up, and I was in such pain on the floor. I couldn't move. And I told my wife, like, this it's a big problem. Like something's really bad happening. And they took me away and arrived at the ER. And it was 48 hours of pure torture, Lauren. Just not being able to eat anything, trying to get all the different needles in me, and trying to figure out what was going on. As I was laying there in the bed in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., I sort of thought about, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to be doing? At the time, I have a thriving brand strategy business. I work with companies and startups with their brand strategy. But then was that all in what I'm supposed to be doing in my life? As I was thinking, and I sort of started to reflect about why this was important to me, why brand was so important. And it came down to the idea that brand is really a study of people. Why I was interested in brand is because I was studying people for the longest time. And so thinking about that broadly, I started to question, what was this all for? And really the number one question is, how can we as humans live to our fullest potential and become legends ourselves? And the word legend is really interesting because I think there's a story to be told and a story to be left behind. That's a legend. But it's also living up to a potential that you never thought was possible. It's about the people involved. So I left the hospital. Bad news, they didn't really figure out what was wrong. And I guess nothing was wrong, so it's still a medical mystery. Good news, I started this project, Cut the Legend. As I help myself, as I think about brand and brand thinking in a totally different way, and have people come along on the journey. And really excited about that. I doubled down on it. I launched a newsletter. Actually, my podcast is about to launch as well, interviewing legends among us who are alive today, and understanding what is behind their story. So that's how it all started, Lauren. Really going to the ER.
So here you are, right? And over time that you've hopefully been in a lot better health, you probably had some time to reflect a little bit back, not just on the crisis at hand, but some of those core attributes that dial up to say, hey, this really hits the mark in terms of legend status or legend ranking. What are some of those tenets or pillars that show up for people who would be considered a legend?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just like when I approach brand strategy, there is the head and the heart. There's no disconnecting the two of them. I think when you look from the outside, someone that has achieved that status is someone that is really very comfortable in where they are, someone that is successful, someone that is happy, someone that has aligned their internal state to what they're doing externally. But when you look at it from the inside, so if you're a person thinking, am I living up to my potential? And you know this too, because you're going out there and doing things, Lauren. You're physically challenging your body. It's about the stories that you're telling yourself and the willingness to be uncomfortable, the ability to live your values truly day in, day out. And I think that's legendary. I mean, that's doing something that a lot of people won't do. And if you're doing that, I think you have achieved some sort of a status. But it's also not about fame. It's not about outward recognition. It's internal recognition that's the life that you're living that's truest to yourself.
I'm really glad that you said that, because as I was saying legendary status, I'm thinking, oh, this isn't like some kind of big badge, because as I understand it and you've described it, you're talking about everyday legends. People that are going out there, right? They're committing to something and it is uncomfortable. I mean, I was just telling you about my fishing trip. I felt like this is like the big loser, because I was like, no, like I only caught one fish in a week. Who cares? I still did it, That's more than I ever thought in my whole life. So what are some of the things? So you're talking about, getting out there, challenging yourself, be it physically, be it mentally, but how does this overlay on top of executives as they do their job search, right? Because I'm just going to raise my hand, and I'm going to also ask you this kind of partner question is, like, we say we want to grow, but most of us really don't want to be uncomfortable. So how do you reconcile that in a job search, which is fraught with all kinds of transition?
The number one thing that we all humans have that aligns throughout the world is that we want to escape discomfort. I mean, it's just a natural human thing. Our brains are made, our evolution has made it so that we avoid discomfort, we avoid pain, and seeking relative pleasure and rewards. So that is 100% true. And even, myself, the biggest athletes, I mean, you talk about David Goggins, he has to remind himself who he is every single day when he wakes up, right? He has to go pursue the uncomfortable. And it is not a habit that you can just roll out of bed and it's there. No, I think you have to work at it and want to work at it. So I think when you think about job searching and putting yourself out there, that's a lot of where the discomfort lies. When I work with executives to up-level their personal brand, for example, the number one thing that I hear, I'm curious to hear what you hear as well, is that they feel like, I don't want to put myself out there because I feel like that's too much of a self-promotion. They're a little bit self-conscious about what they want to put out there. And so that is their level of discomfort. The what if I did something quote unquote wrong? Will I get the people saying or calling me out on things that I'm not good at, or I fail at and I'm weak at? So a lot of that is confronting that idea that when you put yourself out there, yes, it's uncomfortable, but everybody is doing that too. Everybody that puts themselves out there is facing discomfort, and that's okay.
So I love that you're talking about this misconception, right? I want a personal brand, but I also don't want to promote myself. So like how, again, like do these things talk to each other? And what is the workaround or the approach that you take to help them over the hump? How do you get them from, oh, no way? Like, I mean, I hear this too, right? Like, you want me to what? You want me to go on LinkedIn and be out there? And I'm like, well, we can't find you if you're not there. So how do you help your clients and other people really embrace their own personal brand and come up with a strategy in those states of uncomfort or discomfort?
Right. I find that a reframe of this idea of self-promotion is working for a lot of them, which is not really about you. It's about the people that you want to help, the people that you're serving. So it is really selfish if you don't put yourself out there and you don't get to help the people that could use your help. Think about that. It's not about you. Think about all the people you could serve. But when you stay in the corner, when you stay quiet, they don't have access to you. What a loss. What a loss. So I think as soon as you start reframing and thinking about the people that could benefit from your help, the companies that could benefit from your work, the products that could benefit from your ideas, I think it starts to shift. It's not about you.
Do you have any stories of people that were like super, super skeptical and then they're like, oh my God, what was I missing?
Well, absolutely. I think one of the best stories come from when you kind of hold their hand and lead them through putting out content. I remember there was an executive that became a solopreneur because they sort of lost their job or they transitioned on, and the person had a hard time putting their stories out there because he was thinking, who am I to help other people? I myself are without a job. But as soon as you hold their hand and start putting content out there, not about how the world should be, but just about what they have experienced, what they have learned, their own journey through leadership and where they are today and what they're striving to do, the response was overwhelming because people could relate to a true story. People could relate moving from a corporate world to an entrepreneurship world. People could relate the ifs and the buts and the self-reflection that goes on as you transition at all of these pivot points. So after holding their hand through weeks of content, they realized through the messages that they were getting, the comments they were getting, that really it's not about him, that their message was so much stronger and more powerful than their own limitations were. So there was a win. And that simple mindset shift of, oh my God, I am helping people because they could relate with my world is something that would change that person's life forever.
Absolutely. There's such a transformation when they start embracing a level of content, because not only do you have people championing and cheering and all that kind of stuff, they're like, give me more. Like, I love
Right.
sharing. Give me more, man. I'm learning and I'm happy because you taught me something.
Right.
So this is
when I got laid off, this was 2022, and I shared my story online on LinkedIn. It was hard for me, but it was also a way for me to get over my journey, right? Go through my journey, go through my stages of grief. So I had to do that so that I could get it off my chest. And by sharing the emotions that I felt, I remember there was one post where I shared the roller coaster emotions, right? From shame to guilt to hopelessness, to maybe some glimpse of excitement, and really sharing the entire roller coaster of emotions. There were so many people that reached out and said, Howie, I mean, I feel the same way, or 10 years ago, I felt the same way. I'm rooting for you, buddy. Or, oh my God, I'm going through it right now. Just being real and putting it out there is going to help you connect with people, because ultimately people want a connection. And that's so important. So when you say personal brand, it's not logos and colors. It's the
Right.
actions that you take, is the things that you
Right.
do, is the communities that you form and create. That's what building brand is about.
Okay, so I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because you just walked yourself right into my next area of I would say that after reviewing a lot of your legend letters, one of my favorite mindset shifts was highlighted there. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the simplicity of this mindset shift or legend formula called be, do, have.
Right.
And how we normal lay people, right? We play the shell game. And so I want anybody who's listening right now to hear the hierarchy or the order that this is laid out. Be, do, have. All you, Howie. Tell us about it.
Yeah. This is not new.
Right.
I'm not saying something that is original. It's something that I latch onto, and I think is really important. I remember when I was in my teenage years, or at least not teenage, 20 actually, when I came to the United States from Singapore. The one thing I wanted to have was to have a car, because lo and behold, in the US, in a lot of cities, you can't get around without a car. So I gotta have a mode of transportation. And it was all about having that thing. Because once I have that thing, I have a car, I can go do the things that I want to do, be mobile and all of that. And then I can be the person I really want to be. This like fun and outgoing person that I've always wanted to be. But there's a flaw in that, isn't it? There's an absolute flaw in that. So again, when I got laid off, oh man, I really want to have all the things that an entrepreneur has. So I want to have freedom of time. I want to have the revenue. I want to have unlimited vacations. I want to have all these things. And you start to think about, all right, I need to have that, but until I have that, I can't do these things, and I can't do these things, and I can't be that person, which is such a waste of time. Because if you flip it around and you think about how you can start with be, which is, if you want to be an author, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can be that today, right? You can be that identity today. And then so when you start to understand your deep desires and who you need to become to do that, you first be that person. You then do the things that the person does.
Mhm.
So as an entrepreneur, what does an entrepreneur need to do? Well, you need to offer, you need to sell something, isn't it? So you got to go build a solution. How do you build a solution? Well, I got to go talk to the people that has the problems. All right, let's go. Once you start embodying be, you start doing the work, doing the deeds, putting in the reps, you will have the things that come with it. So be the person that you want to become today. Do the things that the person does every single day, and you will have all the things
Right.
of that person.
I know. Isn't it funny? It's kind of like Simon Says, do what they do and get what they've got, right? It's
Right.
like here you go, right?
Here
But
you go.
we overcomplicate things because we think that there's a better workaround. Or also, I mean, I'm going to ask you this, when you are becoming a legend, right? Like, it's probably not an overnight matter. It probably doesn't work like, drive through a Burger King, have it your way, or anything like that, or even like a vending machine. So talk to us about what it takes from either a habitual standpoint or a level of resilience to actually get to that place and get to, let's just say in this framework, be, do, have, get to the have place. And when do you
Right. Yeah, that's always a good question. I think Seth Godin has such a great mindset around this, which is the practice. It's your craft. you are a professional. That's the do bit, right? So you got to do, which is you got to take the action. You got to show up day in and day out to do the work as a professional, whether you're tired, whether you're unmotivated, whether you feel in a terrible state, you show up because you're a professional and that's what you do. And that's why it's so important, Lauren, that the first step of being, you need to dig deep within yourself to really line up who you truly are to the person that you wish to become in it. And it's true because as you would realize this, and I do as well, when you're young, I feel like there's so many things that you don't know. You don't have the life experiences to reflect on. I think it happens as you get older because you've done a lot of different things and you start to understand and shed all these things that society and your parents and your friends and everybody puts on you on what is successful or who you need to become. And once you do that, you can get down to the core and the raw essence of you as a person. And when you line that up to the person you want to become, you truly can embody that and you truly can live that daily. And when you show up daily to do those deeds, to do those reps, I think that's when the magic starts to happen. But it doesn't get there overnight. It doesn't. I just don't think you can get there, as a teenager, as a young, 25-year-old person. At that point, your job is to try as many things as you can and get as many life experiences as you can to reflect upon that.
This really echoes a lot of the early stage work we do with our clients and tapping them into their why. Because so many of us don't even know why we're doing what we're doing in the first place. And then
Right.
it does become a job. And then we're mad because now we have a job and we don't feel like we matter or have purpose. So this goes back to that being state that you so graciously shared with us. And it doesn't matter if it's not new. It still needs to be heard. And I think it also needs to be heard, especially in times where there's not only transition, but a lot of outside forces that start creating a lot of noise around what you can do and what you can't do. And this is the climate and that's the situation and all that. And it's like when you're tapped into that, I'm not saying it doesn't factor in, but it doesn't hold you back.
Right. And that's why I feel like the research and the saying about your success is due to the 5 people that you spend the most time with. I think that is so true. And it can also help or hurt your mindset of who you want to become. When I was a scientist, that was my first job as a scientist. I was surrounded by people with PhDs, and some even double PhDs. So there's a lot of names, a lot of letters, behind their names. And so what I wanted to do was, I'm going to go get a PhD. I actually put together 10 applications to 10 PhD programs across the country. Luckily for me, I didn't send them, but I prepared them all. I had them ready to go. I remember I had everything ready to go, all the checks written out, all the essays, all the letters. I didn't send them. I did not send them. I was very fortunate that I didn't send them. But all this is to say, when you're surrounded by a group of people that you think you belong to, but you actually don't, it can get pretty small for you. Your world can be pretty small. So that's why when we talked before we recorded about all these events that you're going to, Lauren, all these different places, different people you're meeting, I think everyone needs that. Because once you spend time with people that are congruent with themselves and their purpose, and they're all very purposeful in what they're doing, you start to question, is this really right for me? Is it all about the corner office? Or is it all about this other thing that I thought mattered so much to me, but it really doesn't matter so much to me anymore? But it helps to, I think, help you reflect upon where you are. And I think community, having that group of people is so important. It's not just in your small little world. So reach out, that's important.
So reach out and take a risk. And so back to your initial concept with, who are those 5 people? How do they influence you? If you're going through a job search or you're working with a client, right? How do you help them to filter the who's who of the five?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting there is look at the people that you have great connections with, or look at people within your community. So, a lot of what we do is typically we find people just within one frame of reference, which is like, all right, work. I'm just going to find people at work. But that's not a very diverse group of people, isn't it? It's just through that work, or even worse, it's through one function of that particular work. I think as you start looking around, whether it's your physical space, like I don't know, go to your local hangout, go to the local community center, go to the library, go to events locally. You start to meet different people that are doing very different things. And I think through different avenues and different channels, you start to build your group of five, which again should not be one dimensional. It should
Right.
be multidimensional. So even with people working with me or people working with you, we would be able to connect them to, hey, you know what? I think it would be really neat for you to meet this other person. Maybe it's orthogonal relationship, but it can give you a very different perspective on life or professional endeavors. And that could be fantastic. And with the internet today, right, with social media platforms today, it is so easy to reach out and form a group of peers and connections that are all over, geography, functions, what have you.
I echo this sentiment in such a big way. And part of tapping into the hidden job market, which is so powerful, especially as you get more senior and into those positions, is predicated on who you know and the people that you're having those conversations with. One of the things that we say is that I say on a regular basis is if you stay in that echo chamber, the one that you were just referring to, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to into the habit of drinking dirty bathwater. Or people think the same, they do the same thing, they probably eat the same, maybe they watch the same TV shows, who knows? But it's just like more sea of sameness. So thank you for that really important reminder. And that kind of goes into this next area about your charisma toolkit, right?
Yeah.
And so for a lot of folks, they may not be feeling like great, like thanks a lot, Howie and Lauren, thanks so much for like talking about this, and you're just having this very easygoing conversation, but I don't really feel that warm from my own form when it comes into networking. So how do you help your clients build the muscles around charisma, and what is it that we can all do coming out of this episode to even improve the charisma that we have?
Yeah, I feel like when people think charisma, they always think like, is this, gregarious, extroverted person that's loud and they do all sorts of things and they tell jokes. But I think in the end, when you think about charisma, there's a lot of levels and a lot of different parts to it. I mean, the most charismatic people out there are actually introverts, right? Think about Nelson Mandela. You think about Gandhi. You think about some of these folks. I think when we think charisma, it all starts from the inside. It all starts internally, and then you think about how you want to express it outside. Because charisma is ultimately about influence and attraction, isn't it? And if you don't have the internal focus, the understanding of your values, your beliefs, again at the primary core, you can't really project a charisma that is sustainable. It might be a gregarious moment, but it's not true charisma that it's long lasting. So I talk about sort of that 7 dimension. There are 7 dimensions of charisma. One is self-confidence. So really having that confidence as you go out into the world. Actually, appreciation is an important one, that you actually appreciate the good things that are coming to your life. Being mindful, right? That's being present. Very important point of charisma. You need to stay in the moment to really be listening and be mindful of what's happening. Growth, personal growth. You can't really attract people into your world if you're stagnant, if you're not growing on your own. So you're bringing people along on your journey of growth. Leadership is another one, right? You really have to serve in order to attract. So for me, leadership is all about service. Empathy is the sixth one. So being able to understand and feel what others are feeling, not necessarily agreeing with them, but just
Sure.
holding space to feel, to understand where you're coming from. And then the last, which is usually what people focus on, is communication. That's when you communicate verbally, non-verbally, to be able to attract. So if you think about it, 7 elements, only one is communication. All these other things are
Right.
sort of getting you there, which is a lot of internal work to get
Yeah,
to
I'm really glad you
charisma.
peeled back the curtain, because I think that there is a very limited understanding of charisma, which, of course, the hipsters are calling it Riz. These are all just throwing that out there, right?
Yeah.
Not Riz, man. So there is no doubt in my mind that each one of these plays a very important factor as you build your network, as you are in your job search, because let's face it, people like to be around people who are likable. And charisma isn't something that is just for those people either. I love the examples that you used, right? Because those are some of the most endearing, charismatic people. I mean, oh man, there are so many people that just have earned that reverence because of their quiet strength and because of that charisma.
Right.
I want to ask you this, because I really rely and respect you. I think that part of what attracts me to you and your work is that you are constantly iterating, like you had mentioned before. I didn't create this, but you iterated on it, and a lot of how you are talking about the connection point between the head and the heart, right? The head and the heart need to work in tandem with each other to create the maximum amount of outcomes or results that you're looking for, because one without the other has some severe consequences. So what is one piece of unconventional career advice you would give to any executive at this point to redefine or reevaluate their legacy in today's business world?
I don't know if it's unconventional, but I would say it's not often done, is putting out or serving people before you have the title. It's not about the title. You serve the people that you want to serve. So what I mean by this is, let's say you're a tech executive and your background is in engineering, and after many years of work, you've become a leader, and perhaps you're looking for your next role, and there is a gap, like you left your job and you're looking for your next role. What's stopping you from helping somebody right now? So helping somebody, let's say an engineer that wants to get into leadership, or helping a new leader be better at their current career. Why do I say that? I say that because as you start to help people right away, you also start to build networks and relationships. And that's also part of getting a job, right? Being placed, looking for your next role, is building relationships. And when you can do that alongside with the goal of just relationship building, it's just more, you're helping people. You're building more genuine relationships while helping people. And I think when you do that, and when recruiters or when other executives learn about what you're doing, it becomes a topic of conversation. You are actually already practicing what you want to be practicing without that title, without a company. So
Yeah,
maybe it's not unconventional, but I
it's
feel like,
underutilized. I agree
yeah,
with you,
underutilized.
right?
Help somebody. Yeah.
Go help somebody. That is also available at any time. Your experience, no matter where you are, can always be of value or service to somebody else, especially if you've been climbing. So you don't need an advanced degree, you don't need permission, you don't need anything. You just need
No, you don't.
just to go. And I see that as a very fluid practice on LinkedIn. People giving shout
Right.
outs, people doing that. And so if you need a practice ground to see how it's done, go try it in the digital world and and hang out on LinkedIn for a little bit. Go follow Howie for sure, for sure. Somebody who I also madly respect for being, social media influencers, growing at a rapid pace, but still replies back to his comments, right? So that's a big deal, though. That's your integrity, and that is part of your legacy, is that you're never too big to be able to show up for people that are giving to you, right? And
Yeah.
doing that.
And yeah, I mean, it really isn't more than a few clicks of your mouse and some typing on your keyboard to set up one-on-one calls with people. So again, if you're an executive, you're looking to make an impact, why wait? Why wait for that title? Why wait for that role? As you're looking, as you're thinking, as you're out there, help someone in the industry, help people that are a few steps behind you, help them now. And that could be a real boon. As you know, it's all about planting seeds, Lauren, right? All about planting seeds. Every person you meet is a gift. You just don't know what it is yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Michael Margolis. Thank you for the introduction to Howie Chan. That's how we got together. And so we didn't know each other, and someone mutually beneficial to both of us that we had separate relationships with connected us. And I'm actually having dinner with him tomorrow night, and super, super, super grateful for that. That's how this happens. And
That's how it
so you don't need
happens.
to, go to graduate school necessarily to do this, because trust me, when you get out of graduate school, you're still going to have to do it. So you may as well take the Evelyn Wood Street Reading Dynamics course here and get it all going down. Howie Chan, I am so grateful to you, just the guy that you are, and I'm proud to call you a colleague and a friend. Please, everybody who is listening right now, and even if you saw this on LinkedIn, go and subscribe to Legend Letters. The link is down below. But also, if you loved this episode and our other episodes, please subscribe. We are working tirelessly to literally blow the lid off of conventional career advice and strategies, and we need you to help us grow. So thank you so much for subscribing, for being such an avid follower, because we do have a lot of loyal listeners, and I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.